Welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at, well, the hidden mechanics of drop-off catering today.
Right.
And our mission for you listening is to really figure out the specific strategies that transform just a single, generic food delivery into this totally unforgettable brand experience.
Yeah, we're talking about how to turn one single catering order into an absolute machine for repeat corporate clients
Yeah.
and, organic social media referrals.
Exactly. And today's insights, they're pulled straight from the notes and transcript of this really fascinating business strategy piece, which is titled Beyond the Brand Experience.
And right off the bat, I want to establish something really critical for you listening. While this deep dive is, using the food service industry and drop-off catering as our sort of lens today.
Right, the examples are all food.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the underlying psychology we're about to discuss, this whole idea of choosing experience over product, that applies to almost any competitive industry you can think of.
Oh, absolutely.
If you sell a B2B service or, deliver a physical product, or if you're just fighting to be remembered in a sea of competitors, this is going to resonate deeply with how you do business.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand where we're going, we first have to understand the primary problem we're actually trying to solve here.
Right. The invisibility problem.
Yeah. Imagine spending hours or maybe even days preparing for a massive party. You curate the guest list, you secure the venue, you pour your heart into making sure every single element is just absolutely perfect.
It sounds exhausting, honestly.
Right. But the night arrives, the room is packed, everyone is having the time of their lives, but you are completely invisible.
Wow. Yeah.
You're just a ghost in the corner. No one in that room knows you actually threw the party. And in the business world, that is the new reality of invisible catering.
It is, it's really the ultimate thankless job. You did all the heavy lifting in the kitchen, you provided all the actual value to the people eating, but you walk away with zero recognition.
And zero lasting connection to any of those potential clients sitting right there in that room.
Exactly. And to understand why this happens, we kind of have to look at how technology has just fundamentally shifted consumer expectations over the last decade.
Oh, for sure. The apps changed everything.
They really did. Convenience has been completely commoditized. 10 years ago, just getting food delivered accurately to an office of 50 people on time.
That was a miracle.
Right. It was a logistical feat. That was your competitive advantage. But today, that is just the bare minimum expectation.
Because the friction is entirely gone. As a consumer, you can open up a delivery app and you have dozens, maybe hundreds of restaurants right at your fingertips.
Yep. Switching vendors takes, what, 3 taps on a piece of glass?
Exactly, 3 taps. And the price differences between, say, a turkey sandwich at place A and place B, they're minimal. And honestly, the menus are starting to look completely identical.
They really are. So going back to your opening analogy, if your company just drops off a bunch of generic, brown cardboard boxes.
With those flimsy plastic utensils wrapped in cellophane.
Yes, exactly. If you do that, you are completely invisible to the 20 to 100 people in that room who are actually eating your food.
Because the logistics problem was totally solved by the apps.
Right. So the answer to standing out in this incredibly crowded market, it has very little to do with the menu itself anymore.
It's all about the brand experience surrounding that menu.
Exactly. Which means we have to fundamentally shift our mindset here. Since the food alone just isn't enough to make a business visible, the transition is moving from delivering calories to, delivering moments.
Delivering moments, I like that. Because human memory is intimately tied to emotional friction or, emotional elevation.
Right.
If a catered lunch is just a routine calorie transfer, the brain literally deletes the file. I couldn't tell you what I had for lunch last Tuesday, let alone at a conference last month.
That is the perfect way to frame it. People rarely remember exactly what kind of sandwich they ate at a corporate lunch 3 weeks ago. The specific ingredients just fade. But what they will remember are the environmental details that created an emotional response. Was the setup visually stunning? Was the buffet line logically organized?
So they didn't have to awkwardly shuffle around, holding a plate, trying to find a napkin.
Exactly. Were the utensils those cheap plastic ones that just snap when you try to eat a salad? Or were they premium, sturdy, heavy in the hand?
Okay, wait, I want to pause on that for a second, because that brings up a really crucial point. Let me push back on this a bit from a purely financial perspective.
Sure, go for it.
Margins in the food service industry are notoriously razor thin, right? We're talking pennies on the dollar.
Oh, absolutely.
So how does a caterer justify spending capital on premium packaging, custom mints, heavy utensils when the client is only paying like $15 a head? Doesn't obsessing over those expensive little details completely destroy their profit margin?
That is a phenomenal question, and it cuts right to the heart of this business model.
Are we suggesting the actual quality of the food doesn't matter? Like, should they just serve cheap cardboard in a pretty box to balance the budget?
No, no, no. You definitely cannot serve cardboard. The food quality, that's your baseline requirement. It's the price of admission just to get in the door.
Right. Bad food is bad food.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If the food is terrible, no amount of nice packaging is going to save you. But to answer your question about margins, we have to shift the math. We had to move away from the unit economics of a single sandwich
Okay. Shift to what?
to the concepts of lifetime value, or LTV, and customer acquisition costs.
Ah, okay. So we aren't just looking at the profit on today's lunch.
Precisely. If you spend an extra $4 on premium packaging and presentation for a lunch order, yes, your margin on that specific Tuesday delivery takes a hit.
Sure, that makes sense.
But remember, good food is no longer a differentiator. It's an expectation. It's the emotional memory of a seamless, premium, beautifully presented experience that prevents your client from simply pulling out their phone and clicking a different vendor next month. If that $4 in packaging secures a client who orders once a month for the next 3 years, the lifetime value of that client makes the initial packaging cost mathematically irrelevant.
The feeling you leave them with is your competitive moat.
Exactly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because once we realize we're selling an emotional experience designed to secure long-term loyalty,
Right.
we have to figure out who we are actually selling that emotion to.
Right. And it's not who you think.
Right. Right. It's not the 30 people eating the sandwiches. The biggest secret in this industry is that the real customer is the person buying. We're talking to the office manager, the HR director, the executive assistant, the realtor.
Yeah, they aren't just feeding people. They are hosting.
They are hosting. And that psychological distinction changes everything about how you build your service, doesn't it?
It completely flips the script. You have to look at the behavioral economics of the buyer. Put yourself in the shoes of an executive assistant for a minute. They are personally responsible for making, say, a high-stakes quarterly sales meeting a massive success. Their primary motivation isn't acquiring food.
Right. It's not about being hungry.
No, their primary motivations are elevating their own status within their company and mitigating their own professional risk.
So I see. It's like we are essentially acting as the office manager's wingman.
Yes, exactly.
We do all the heavy lifting behind the scenes. We prep the food, organize the boxes, make sure the labels are perfect, bring the premium napkins. But they get all the glory.
They take all the credit.
Right. When the setup looks incredible and serving is effortless, the team walks up to that office manager and says, "Wow, you really crushed it this time. This looks amazing."
Because you are solving for their anxiety. If the food is late, or the order is wrong, or if the presentation just looks sloppy and embarrassing, that reflects poorly on them.
They take the hit to their professional reputation.
Exactly. But when you make them look incredibly successful to their bosses and peers, you tap into a deeply ingrained human desire for status and security.
That makes so much sense.
When you solve for status and stress reduction, they will never, ever look for another caterer. You become indispensable to their professional success. And that is the ultimate key to B2B client retention.
Okay, so we've optimized the process for the buyer. We've secured the loyalty of the person who placed the order. We are their hero.
Yeah, we're locked in there.
But the math on that is still linear, right? One buyer, one retained client. How do we take that single transaction and use it to capture the other 30 people in that room?
Right. How do we scale it?
Exactly, because that is the jump from just retaining a customer to actually acquiring new ones at scale.
So this moves us into what is conceptually called the Trojan horse delivery.
The Trojan horse.
Yeah. So many businesses operate under this false assumption that marketing ends the moment a customer clicks purchase or places an order.
Right, the sale is done.
But for drop-off catering, and really for any tangible service, that moment of delivery is when the most powerful marketing actually begins.
Oh.
Every single time your team drops off an order, you have to ask yourself a critical question. Will everyone in this room know exactly who provided this meal?
Because if you go back to the generic brown box, you're the ghost again.
You're invisible.
You might have fed 30 potential new clients, 30 people who might have their own department meetings to cater next week or personal events over the weekend, and they have absolutely no idea who you are. The opportunity cost there is just staggering.
It's massive. And what's fascinating here is how we solve that invisibility through what we can call signature experience tactics.
Okay, break that down for us.
Building the Trojan horse is about ensuring your branding is omnipresent, but, elegant. We're talking about professionally branded packaging, custom napkins with your logo, premium disposable cutlery.
Not the cheap plastic that snaps.
Right, no snapping forks. Branded serving utensils and coordinated serving trays that actually look like they belong to a cohesive visual ecosystem.
And even beautiful signage for the dishes, right? Thoughtfully designed labels so people with dietary restrictions don't have to guess what they're eating or track down the host to ask.
Yes, that is such a huge stress reliever.
Personalized thank you cards left on the table. Branded mints or wet wipes. You know, it reminds me of the psychology behind unboxing a new Apple product.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
The slow reveal, the weight of the cardboard, the precise tabs. Apple knows the unboxing is as much a part of the product as the actual microchip.
That is a perfect parallel. It's the psychological compounding effect of all these details, often referred to as the halo effect.
The halo effect.
Yeah. None of these items, like a custom napkin or a nice label or a branded mint, none of them are particularly expensive to produce on their own. But when you put them all together in one cohesive presentation, they communicate an incredibly high level of professionalism.
Consumers just make an assumption.
Exactly. It's a cognitive bias. They naturally assume that if a company cares this much about the presentation and the packaging, well, they must care just as much about the quality of the ingredients and the preparation of the food.
The brain literally misattributes the visual and tactile quality of the packaging to the taste of the food itself. That is wild.
It really is.
I want you listening to really consider the return on investment here. Think about how else you could turn one single transaction into 20 or 30 warm leads without spending a single extra dollar on a Facebook ad or bidding on a Google keyword.
You can't really.
Right. You are essentially using your client's office as a free, highly targeted physical showroom for your brand.
And to fully capitalize on that showroom, the transition from impressed guest to new customer has to be absolutely frictionless.
Right. No hurdles.
The referral tactics has to be built right into the physical environment. You ensure the logo is clearly visible from across the room. You attach physical business cards to the presentation. You make sure your website URL is immediately obvious.
And crucially, providing a QR code right there on the table that links directly to your online ordering system.
Yes.
Including physical menu cards that specifically highlight your corporate catering packages. You want to make it so easy for someone eating that sandwich to say, wow, this is fantastic. I want this for my marketing team next week.
And they can scan a code and book it in 10 seconds flat while they're literally still chewing.
Exactly. You are removing all the barriers to entry while their emotional connection to your brand is at its absolute peak.
Exactly.
All right, so we've successfully optimized the physical room. We've got the office manager looking like a rock star, and the 30 attendees have our QR codes, our branded mints, and a great impression of our food.
Right.
But to truly scale these referrals, we have to look beyond the physical borders of that conference room. We have to capture the internet.
Aye.
We're talking about designing for the feed and using social media as an exponential referral engine.
This raises a really important question about modern consumer behavior. What makes an experience valuable today? Today's consumer doesn't just consume, they document.
They document everything.
They broadcast. Whether it's a corporate holiday party, a massive sales kickoff, a grand opening for a new local business, or, a baby shower on a Saturday afternoon. At every single one of these events, there are multiple people walking around with smartphones in their hands, actively looking for something interesting to post to their network.
And if your catering setup isn't visually appealing enough to make someone stop, pull out their phone, and want to take a photograph, you are leaving an enormous amount of free word-of-mouth marketing on the table.
Massive amounts.
Social media platforms inherently reward beautiful aesthetic experiences. The more polished and stunning your setup is, the more likely the attendees are to organically promote your business to hundreds or thousands of their own followers without you ever having to ask them to do it.
Right. You are turning 30 physical people into a digital broadcast to, 3,000 people.
Now, I can totally see this making sense for a baby shower or, a big glamorous grand opening with balloon arches and a DJ. But let me push back a little on the corporate side.
Okay, go ahead.
Is anyone really taking Instagram photos of a random, mundane Tuesday afternoon lunch at a law office? I mean, it just doesn't seem like the kind of thing that makes it to the grid.
That's very fair skepticism. But the answer relies on a behavioral concept called the pattern interrupt.
Pattern interrupt.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. People do not photograph the mundane. They do not photograph a stack of generic foil pans with plastic wrap over them.
Definitely not.
But when something that is supposed to be mundane, like a routine Tuesday boxed lunch, is presented in a way that is surprisingly beautiful, highly organized, and aesthetically striking, it interrupts their expected pattern.
Ah, it creates a gap between what they expected to see and what they actually saw.
Precisely. It surprises them.
Yeah.
And surprise is a massive driver of sharing behavior.
Okay, I see.
When a law clerk walks into the break room, expecting, a soggy sub in a crumpled wrapper,
Yeah.
and instead sees a beautifully coordinated premium spread with custom branding, elegant signage, heavy utensils.
That becomes inherently shareable specifically because it exceeded the low expectations of a typical office lunch.
Exactly. The contrast is what makes it photographable.
You are turning the boring into the remarkable, which literally means worthy of remark. It's the contrast that stops their thumb from scrolling and gets them to snap a picture.
Got on.
Okay, so we know how to execute this perfectly branded, highly Instagrammable lunch. We know how to capture the buyer, the room, and the internet. But there is a vital point here for actual long-term business survival, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
You can execute this flawlessly once, but what happens when you have to do it every single day at scale? This brings us to the rule of 100 deliveries.
Because executing a perfect presentation once might get you a great review on Yelp, but it will not build lasting brand equity.
Right.
True brand equity is built on relentless consistency. The goal isn't one great delivery, it is 100 consistent deliveries. Every single time a client orders from you, it must feel like it came from the exact same company.
Same attention to detail.
Exactly, the same premium napkins, the exact same professional setup.
It can't be an amazing white glove experience on Tuesday when the owner of the catering company happens to be delivering it, and then a sloppy, disorganized mess on Thursday when a newly hired driver takes it out.
No, you can't have that variance. True branding answers much deeper questions than just, what colors are in our logo.
Right.
It asks, what emotion do we consistently create for our clients? What do people say about us after our team packs up and leaves the building? Would someone recognize our catering setup from across the room, even if they couldn't see the logo, just based on how polished and organized it looks?
Consistency is what actually builds trust. If your service is inconsistent, you create anxiety for that office manager we talked about earlier. They don't know which version of your company is going to show up to their high-stakes meeting. Are they getting the Tuesday version or the Thursday version?
Right, and they can't risk it.
Yeah.
But when you are fiercely, dependably consistent, trust builds loyalty. And client loyalty is what builds resilient businesses. Businesses that can survive economic downturns or sudden changes in delivery app algorithms and aggressive new competitors entering your market.
So what does this all mean for you listening? It means that the feeling a brand creates is the ultimate moat against competitors. It's not the turkey sandwich that protects your business. It's the absolute reliability that you will make the host look amazing and the guests feel valued every single time.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, true branding isn't just a label on a cardboard box. It is a reliable, repeatable promise of excellence. It requires a fundamental shift in identity, moving completely out of the commodity business of selling food and moving firmly into the hospitality business of selling an experience.
Wow. To quickly recap this incredible journey, we've seen that the world of drop-off catering is won by refusing to be the invisible ghost at the party.
Right.
It's won by treating every single delivery not as a mere meal drop, but as a Trojan horse for your brand experience. It is about obsessing over the psychological details that make the event host look like an absolute rock star to their team, mitigating their risk.
Yeah.
And it's about turning physical details, from custom mints to premium serving trays, into digital referrals by making the mundane surprisingly shareable on social media through pattern interrupts.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on today. We've spent this entire deep dive talking about food, catering, and break rooms.
No.
But consider your own line of work, even if it has absolutely nothing to do with the food service industry.
In any industry.
Exactly. What if you apply this exact unboxing mentality to a completely different sector? How could a routine B2B software deployment, or a dense monthly accounting report, or a standard consulting pitch be packaged and presented so beautifully with such surprising attention to detail that your client actually feels compelled to take a picture of it and share it with their network?
Oh, I love that challenge. Turning a dry accounting report into a pattern interrupt. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep looking for those hidden aha moments in your everyday work. And whatever you do this week, don't be the ghost at the party. Make sure they know exactly who made the magic happen. We'll see you next time.